and welcome to coverage of the World Magic Cup here from Indianapolis in 2012. My name is Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth. I am joined by Zach Hill. Hello, Zach.
Hi again, Marshall.
Yeah, I like saying hi. All right, so we are going to be seeing the second round of the team constructed stage 2 here. So we've got all three formats represented. There's standard, there's modern, and there's block constructed. Right now, we're going to be watching modern. This is from roughly 8th edition forward. It's the biggest card pool of the constructed formats that we're playing this weekend, and we should be seeing some pretty hot action here between Rug Delver and a Doran deck.
Right.
Doran being black, white, green. All right, now we know for a fact here that Tony Portolan from Croatia, he's on the left side of your screen. He's the one running Rug. He has mulligan to 6. On the right side of your screen is Gerald Camignon.
Camignon?
Camignon?
That's how it goes. Camignon.
Anyway, and he is going to play an Inquisition of Kozilek on turn 1 after he played his Overgrown Tomb untapped from Verdant Catacombs.
Portolan has mulliganed already. The Inquisition sees 6 cards. He's got, looks like his options, Dismember, Serum Visions, 4 lands. I feel like you have to take the Serum Visions here, and you feel like you're in extremely good shape so far.
That's a great way. I have to say that's an absolutely horrible hand for Tony at this point in the game. The deck really only wants 3 lands, 4 at the very most. If it gets flooded, that's when things get bad. You know, one of the good things that you want to see is your opponent crack a fetch land and then play an untapped shock land on turn 1. That's like a free lightning bolt.
That is true.
And they add up really quickly.
No, I can imagine that, as does damage from Horizon Canopy.
Wow, this is just a devastating start. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben comes down. Why don't you talk about that for a second, Zach? That's a big play here.
Oh, it's absolutely huge here. I mean, Portolan doesn't really have that many creatures to begin, or that many threats to begin with. Serum Visions he was relying upon to draw into more spells. Top decking a land on the first turn and only having a removal spell means his deck lacks the velocity to go anywhere. And even if he does draw that, the Thalia is probably going to prevent him from doing anything too fast. So, I mean, even though it's the second turn of the game, the first turn for Tony, I would say this game is pretty much over before it began.
It's going to be pretty tough for Tony to claw back. He has a lot of ways that he can, but a lot of them also involve Gerald kind of walking into things. You know, it doesn't really get pretty. One of the great things about Thalia, you know, is that, yeah, she's disrupting. She's also going to start just hitting for damage turn after turn after turn. She's pretty tough to get in the way of as well.
No, exactly. Yeah, with Thalia, we actually designed that card for largely this situation. It was specifically supposed to be good against decks that played a lot of copies of cards like Gitaxian Probe, Ponder, Mana Leak, you know, light burn spells.
You're so happy right
now. Yeah, right, exactly. It's always great to see something go out as
all right, so we see a Kasoli Pride Mage
+1
for Gerald, and that's going to give Exalted bonus as well to Thalia.
All right, Thalia attacks for 3 points of damage, plays another Horizon Canopy, and
we see
finally
Snapcaster Mage. So a little bit of action, but it's not going to do anything yet. Snapcaster Mage can't block either of the creatures unless he decides to ship with both, which he very well may because he wants to get the 4 damage instead of just 3.
Right.
And he can use it as a Snapcaster Doomblade thing.
Right, yeah, just play Ambush Viper.
An Ambush Viper, exactly.
But not being able to get your Serum Visions back, absolutely huge.
It's just devastating.
At that point.
That Thalia is going to do so much work.
I mean, it's almost like Thalia has drawn you a card already.
Now, another option he has here, Zach, what do you think about this? He could just play the Dismember on the Thalia here.
I don't think that's bad. I think in order to win the game, you absolutely have to cast that Serum Visions. Like otherwise, you're just one card a turn is not going to be enough. So I mean, I think you do want to Dismember Thalia, maybe the Pride Mage. I mean, because it's not like he doesn't have a lot of lands, right? I might even Dismember the Pride Mage there, and that way, like if he has another Thalia, you don't activate it in his hand.
Okay, but look at the situation here. So the Pride Mage, if he follows up with a creature, then when it comes back to Tony, he can draw whatever, pass the turn, and if he wants, I see another Thalia, I believe. Oh, geez, this is just getting devastating.
Yeah, this is brutal, and he doesn't have the land to even cast Snapcaster Mage as a 2/2.
So the line I was thinking, though, is that he could then play the Snapcaster and flash back to Dismember, but this is not going to happen at this point.
Sure.
Right.
Because, so let's say that Gerald followed up with another creature. other
Like
than that
Thalia.
one, yeah, then, you know, conceivably what could happen is he attacks with both. Tony plays Snapcaster Mage, flashes back the Dismember on, let's say, the Thalia here, and then blocks the Pride Mage to clear the board of everything. The problem is Tony's sitting at 9 now.
Right.
And that would put him at 5, you know, had he taken that line. It's all off the table at this point. But yeah, so again, the bad beats continue. He's up against it pretty hard here.
And it's true. I mean, he may not have been in that terrible a shape if he ended up killing the Pride Mage instead, because that Thalia is in Kamnion's hand. He's only attacking for
14.
2 instead of 3, and there are some big hits in Tony's deck that can get him out of this. I mean, Vedalken shackles with the Pride Mage off the table, and he's right back in the game.
Hey, that's a great point. And you know, one of the reasons why you're advocating for killing the Pride Mage, right, is so that it strands other Thalias in it.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
I mean, the legend rule is one of the very few drawbacks of a card like Thalia, and sometimes you have to take advantage of that.
Truth. Okay, so Burst Lightning off the top. He has got 2 other lands in his hand. This deck cannot function with this many lands having been drawn. It really needs to keep the velocity going and keep the cheap, efficient spells coming, and you can't do that this way.
Right.
All right, so now is he going to kill the Pride Mage? He does.
Looks like it. Leaving Thalia on the table, he's got enough mana that Thalia's drawback is not particularly relevant.
It's not relevant at all. The only time it would be is if he did draw Vedalken Shackles. Ooh.
What
Zealous
devastating
Persecution.
Zealous Persecution.
Wow, so he's going to actually take 6 here, and his Pride Mage doesn't die?
That is a complete blowout
Wow.
at this point in the game. And I mean, you know, he's only playing 2 copies of Zealous Persecution, but it's 4 situations exactly like this.
Good.
You know, it's a very narrow effect, but extremely powerful, very undercosted relative to its effect.
He draws a Spell Snare, and that's going to do it.
Yeah.
Scoop him up.
Yeah, just scoops his cards up. Clearly not happy about the way that game went.
No.
Already on the well again. Lost his one way to search for more meaningful effects. And again, that game did not really go anywhere.
You know, I think you called it pretty early, and I think that was correct. You know, this deck really does rely on having velocity. You know, you need to have that early pressure, and then it does a great job of either protecting it with counters or backing it up with burn spells for reach. So, you know, it can be either one.
So let's talk about sideboarding for a minute. I mean, what we're seeing right now, we saw a teammate point to Fire Spout. Looks like those are some Threads of Disloyalty
I
in
saw
the
some
sideboard.
Combusts.
Combust, really?
Actually hits white, you know, it kills Doran.
No, I think Combust would be really, really good in this situation. That seems powerful. It hits Kasali Pride Mage.
Yep.
Hits Thalia, although it costs 3 to do it.
Now I see that he's got 2 Threads of Disloyalty as well. Assuming that Gerald is playing Tarmogoyfs, and from what we've already seen, would you bring that in?
I think you absolutely bring in Threads. I mean, like, even hitting a Pride Mage is really good.
Yeah.
Right? And he doesn't have an opportunity to activate it. Now, there are some big threats from Gerald over here with Knight of the Reliquary, Doran the Siege Tower, obviously, that don't get hit by Threads of Disloyalty. It's pretty hard to hit a Thalia with Threads of Disloyalty, even though you can do it. So it does look, though, that while they're sideboarding, we are checking out another match. And it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's on the table.
16 life, 5 poison, and 14 life.
Looks like we're getting to see
There's some standard things happening here. I'm not sure if we're actually going to go to this match.
14.
All right. And we see a second Wild Defiance on the table.
All right. So we're now over in Standard. This is not Modern. This is not Block. We are now in Standard. And so this is the comfort zone, I think, for a lot of our viewers, right? You know, this is what they play at their FNMs and such. And so let's try to get this board state up to par. Now, we're not going to be able to catch up every turn, but let's see what we're looking at here, Zach. We've got 2 Wild Defiance, a Blight Mamba. Now, he's tapped out, so there's no regeneration this turn, and a Glistener Elf. On the other side of the table, we have a Restoration Angel that just came in and blinked a Blade Splicer, so we've got 2 3/3 first striking golems, along with a bunch of mana, 2 cards in hand, and an active Moorland Hunt. Which side do you like here?
It's really hard to say. I mean, it looks at first glance like the Delver deck is in a commanding position. On the other hand, 2 Wild Defiance is
That's
very
huge.
capable of ending the game out of basically nowhere.
That's right. Now, I'm going to point out here that Andrew Cantillana from the Philippines, he's on the right side. He's the one playing blue-white. He's got 5 poison counters already. So, he's got to be careful. You can see he's left back 2 creatures plus a Moorland Haunt activation. So he's being very careful. All right, Green Sun Zenith for 1.
That'll be getting most likely a Glistener.
A second Glistener elf.
And I think the leaving back of 2 plus Moorland Haunt was very deliberate, because that means that Stepan, even if he has 2 Apostles' Blessings, can't quite get through all of the blockers.
Because, okay, yeah, that makes some sense.
No cards.
So, yeah, no cards in his hand. Restoration Angel, 2 Golems, Blade Spicer. This is going to be certainly, if not a lethal attack, a devastating attack. And Vapor Snag seals the deal.
And it does get the +3/+3, but it also still goes back to his hand.
And returning a 4/4 Blight Mamba.
And he's going to move all in, attack with everybody. It's 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Little pump fake on the handshake. Was that game 1 or something? Yeah, I think that was game 1. He was going to extend the hand, but he decided that he would withhold it until the match was actually over.
That's actually kind of awkward. Like, what happens if you shake hands there? Your opponent interprets it as a concession?
Oh yeah, that's true. You got to be careful.
What does that mean?
Yep.
Right?
So I think we're going to stay here on this table. I kind of want to get a glimpse of this Infect deck that we've been talking about all weekend. You've talked about it. We saw EDM talking about it. It's kind of a thing that I want to get going. So we get a good look at it. It's explosive.
It's extremely explosive, but surprisingly resilient. Between Blight Mamba's ability to regenerate and all the cards in the deck that are able to give your creature protection from removal spells and burn spells, you have a surprising amount of play, despite how quick it is.
Okay, qualifiers for the next Pro Tour begin August 25th. You could be on the big stage for the Pro Tour Gate Crash taking place February 15th through 17th, 2013 in Montreal, Quebec. For more information, visit wizards.com/PTQ. Whew.
You really just sound so dramatic. I
Do
feel
I?
like you should do movie trailers. A little side business.
You think so? I'll look into it. I'll tell you what. You can be my agent.
Webcasts. Oh, I can be your agent.
Yeah, you'd be a great
that.
agent.
Oh, that's how I'm going to make my name in the world. So we're still watching.
All right, so
sideboarding.
a little update from the block side of this big match. Here, you say his name for me.
Gurga is as
Gurga.
close as I can get. I used to call him Gregor, and he one day told me after 5 months that he's just like, or like years that I knew him. He's like, my name's not Gregor, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
That is, in fact.
Gurga, he picks up the first game versus Zach Sozaki. They're playing block. So he's up a game. We have on the other side for the Philippines, Gerald is up a game, and Andrew is up a game versus Stepan
Sucic, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so right now Philippines is in a good position to try to take down this whole match. But this next round of games here is going to determine that in a big way.
So I saw Stepan bring in a couple of Apostles' Blessings. I could not tell exactly what else he sided in. I mean, he's got a lot of tools available to him. I think you definitely want Spellskite in this matchup. Holds off Blade Splicer tokens, and deals with Vapor Snags and Gut Shots. Apostles' Blessing, very, very powerful against Vapor Snag. Vapor Snag, one of the most potent weapons in this matchup, because it prevents you from just going all in on pump spells.
Okay.
Gurga told me a story earlier about how they actually managed to win a game with regular damage. That he equipped. They equipped Rancor to a Spellskite. His opponent took a lot of damage from Phyrexian mana, so he just attacked with it 7 times.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So gotta still keep track of that life total.
Those pump spells still work.
Oh yeah, exactly.
4 damage is still 4 damage.
Right. I'd rather have 4 poison, but Titanic, hey, gets the job done. So from the other side of the table, I'm not exactly sure what Cantilana's looking to sideboard. I feel like timely reinforcement's very powerful right here just because of the 3 guys. It's a lot of blocking. Gideon Jura absolutely devastating for the Infect deck because your creatures, when they're attacking players, deal twice the damage. When they're attacking planeswalkers, in essence, deal half because of the way the cards are costed accordingly. I feel like Negate might be powerful if they're trying to, go all in on Titanic growths.
Gideon
Sure.
just devastating.
Oh, Gideon is
Now,
insane.
Does the mono green deck have Beast Within available to it to swing that interaction
2
back?
Beasts Within.
So that's a key one, right? Because
yeah.
when
If
you
he
play
brings it
a
in.
Gideon, your game plan relies around, okay, so Gideon's going to take something,
Right.
and then I'm going to, and if that effect disappears,
Right.
that's a big deal.
Right. Then you're tapped out and have no defenses against whatever he does. On the other hand, I think Beast Within is pretty weak generally in this matchup, so who knows if he'll even have it in his deck.
That's the question. Now, is that a sideboard card for them, or does that come in the main?
That is 1 copy of Gideon in the sideboard for Cantilana. So not a huge contender, but sometimes you just draw your 1-ups.
All right, so we see a Viridian Corruptor, a Mutagenic Growth, a Green Sun Zenith, and 4 forests. That seems like a pretty serviceable opener, although
Can I start now?
not having the Glistener Elf on turn 1 has to be kind of not ideal.
Yeah, and you don't really want 4 forests. You want some of your non-basic lands. Some of the most powerful cards in your deck are Inkmoth Nexus and Cathedral.
Now, what we're seeing here is digging for land. I think he doesn't shuffle here? Okay. He doesn't shuffle. I think he kept a 1-lander. Now he's going to draw an island on the next turn, so he should be able to keep things moving. And now we do, in fact, Zenith for the Glistener Elf.
I think this hand is a very borderline keepable hand from Sucic. I mean, 4 lands is a lot. He doesn't have any protection for his threats. He seems very, very soft to a
He's got to shuffle in that Zenith.
gut shot. Yeah, right. It gets to Zenith again, gets a threat on the board, but a lot can go wrong with this hand.
Yeah. I feel like that's just how this deck kind of is.
Sure.
I wouldn't call it resilient, although
Right.
it's more resilient than it looks.
Right. I think that's a very good way to put it, Marshall.
Now, he does have the 1 Mutagenic Growth here, so he does have gut shot protection, which he's going to have to use now. But I have to say,
Wow.
and a mental misstep to counter it?
All right.
It's a 2 for 2, but that was his threat.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Like, that was plan A.
No, for sure. I mean, I think
That's
he's going to
an
just
island.
have to run a Viridian Corruptor out there. Just
He
to
had
have a
another one in his
2/2
hand.
impact. He had another Mutagenic Growth?
Yeah.
Maybe he's just, he feels like the Corruptor is a bigger threat. I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, if you're going to spend 1, do you spend 2, or is that not necessarily the case?
I mean, something else that is true is, like, you have to kill your opponent.
I'm 18, he's 16.
You know?
Exactly.
And, like, if you use too many of your
this
giant
is
growths early on, you just aren't going to be able to do that.
Yeah,
in
you're going to have a
reasonable
2/2.
space. So they had a little bit of a dispute of life totals over there. It's Sucic 18, Cantiana 16. All right, you say he was going to draw an island.
He drew the island, and now he's got planes in hand as well from his second ponder, so he's looking pretty good on lands now. Hey!
He's got the Blight Mamba now.
He holds it up, although I don't think there's any counter for blue and standard that could counter that.
Right, if your opponent casts Spell Snare, you're not unhappy.
Yeah, you're not happy with that.
Judge. So he's still got the Mutagenic Growth to protect Blight Mamba here.
Yes.
If he gets to untapped, obviously it's good to go because he can
Yep.
just hold up 2 mana for as long as he actually cares about it. That's and the Viridian Corruptor is going to be extremely powerful against these Blade Splicers.
It definitely is. It's going to blow up a golem, but it still leaves that splicer. Now, you don't trade here, right?
Oh, I
So-
under no circumstances
But
do you
the
attack.
reason why you would consider it is because there's probably an angel coming down
Sure.
here soon, and that could be really bad for you.
Oh, that could be terrible. On the other hand, you didn't really give up a whole lot to cast that Corruptor. I mean,
Yeah.
you sort of killed the golem for free.
Well, no,
so-
what I was saying is if you attack with the Blight Mamba,
I
you
see
could
what you're saying.
tempt him to trade it and then take that play away, the Restoration Angel play. Of course, the problem is the Restoration Angel does the same job itself. Ooh, he misses land drop here, though, so that's not going to even be an option.
Yeah, you're right. I think, being able to trade your Blight Mamba for, in essence, a golem is really good. On the other end, maybe Sucic just had the read that he didn't have the 4th land.
He got him.
4 damage.
He certainly was having to dig
damage.
his lands
Vapor Snag
over and over.
my guy and counter it with your own mental misstep. Nobody pays for spells anymore. That is so last block.
Totally is. You thought Legacy was the only format with free counter magic.
That's right. All right, so that was an interesting play because since he is stuck on lands, his play was going to be just a recast, but he wasn't able to do that. Now, he has drawn an island, though, so he's got Restoration Angel up if he needs it.
Now, the mutagenic growth in his hand is very good. It effectively removes the Restoration Angel, rendering it a chump blocker because infect counters stay around.
Yes.
If the mutagenic growth resolves.
Now this gets even more interesting. Attack you for 3 because of Cathedral of War. Now we're going to see a block, and this is where you have to use the mutagenic growth, or does he have something else? Oh, he's just going to pay for it. Sometimes I forget that you can just pay for it.
Right, yeah, that you actually will pay for your spells sometime. What's really interesting on that attack, if the Restoration Angel wasn't there, the Titanic growth plus the mutagenic growth would have been a lethal attack from 1 poison.
That's sick.
I mean, this deck hits so hard.
It does.
With
Now,
so little.
Now we see a Seachrome Coast on the other side, on Andrew's side of the table, but he's got another Restoration Angel, and he's got another one in his hand. So he's going to be trading these for pump spells over and over. He says 1 second. Now, Andrew's on 1 poison counter.
1 second.
So, Stepjon, he's got to decide, like, he could get in for 5 right now. Right? For 5 poison.
Sure. I think you have to
Or
kill
he
the
can do it
Restoration
this way.
Angel here.
So
I mean, otherwise they're just going to stick around and block. And just having 2 threats on the board is really good because even when he is getting you with Restoration Angel, you're getting through for damage.
Yeah, and he's 1 for 1.
Right, and Restoration Angel much less effective at blocking against the Infect deck than it is against a lot of other decks.
Right.
Storm Crow is much less powerful than the Troublesome Spirit.
That is true. All right, so we see a ponder from Andrew's side of the table. He says, go, clearly telegraphing yet another Restoration Angel.
Right, we see a Wild Defiance drawn by Sucic. He's got
sad
another
about
Corruptor in his hand.
All right, but he knows that there's an Angel coming, so he's going to attack for 2 with the Blight Mamba, which is a very clever play. I like this quite a bit. He can whittle down a Restoration Angel this way, and he's being very patient. I think that it's very enticing to get real excited with this deck and try to just go for the quickest possible kill no matter what, but sometimes you just got to grind your opponent down.
Sucic's just playing very well. Ordinarily, if you've already seen 2 Restoration Angels, the temptation is, he can't possibly have a 3rd one, right?
But
He's already been through these. But the thing is, he's got meaningful cards in his hand and 4 mana on tap, so you have to think that you're playing around something. If your opponent just has more lands, you're winning anyway.
Well, he just took it. And the reason is because he has a flash freeze in hand that he's going to flash freeze or he's going to flash freeze something. I think he wants him to flash freeze this. Right? I mean, he doesn't have any pump spells left in his hand, does he?
Right.
I think he's got another Viridian Corruptor, so he's just... Right. He's okay with that.
Yeah, you're not on the giant growth plan anymore. You're just attacking with proportionately huge guys.
Stepjon is playing very well, I think.
There's a reason that they were leading the Swiss in 3-0 the last round.
Now, am I wrong? Is there not another Restoration Angel?
It's really hard for me to... Oh, no, there is a Restoration Angel. Okay. Restoration Angel Gutshot, and I believe Divine Offering, whose only target is Inkmoth Nexus.
Inkmoth Nexus, or... I don't think they run that, do they?
I don't believe.
Do you know what I'm thinking of?
The Livewire Lash.
Yeah, they don't run that though. Right?
No, they do not.
Which I really like that card because it acts as kind of like a combo piece for a deck like this, but it's less along the lines of what they do, and it's less efficient.
I guess there are more targets for a Divine Offering. There's the Spell Skites out of the board if it turns out that Sucic should bring him in.
Although, yeah, I guess that's okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. Blind Mamba is a card that not every Infect deck runs, but it is doing work this game.
Yeah, it sure is.
Čisto sumnjam, ko to više
I wonder if they just played it because of the prevalence of Gutshot and how they can play around Gutshot by keeping it alive.
Well, it looks like they have two
Ooh,
green suns.
is that another Cathedral of War?
That is
Yes,
exactly what that is.
And I think he's got another Corruptor and a Mental Misstep in hand as well. Now, Andrew's sitting on 6 poison. He cannot take a hit.
No,
Like, he'll
yeah.
still be alive technically. Like, that would have been 3 to 9, but he knows the kind of deck. Actually, that would have been 4 to 10 because of the second one. And he scoops it up. He just simply ran out of things to put in the way.
Right. And, I mean, you know, a lot of people talk about the vulnerability of the Infect deck. It just fought through Gutshot, Middle Misstep, and 3 Restoration Angels.
And it
And
wasn't
a Vapor Snag.
like, maybe it's just a demeanor, but it didn't look particularly difficult. You know, he just very calmly kept attacking every turn. He picked the correct creature to attack with, and that was that.
Yeah, really disciplined attacks. I mean, the temptation when you're playing a deck this fast is to get ahead of yourself.
Yeah.
But I think that, you know, you've just got to calm down
Yeah.
and not get too in a hurry.
Well, we saw Stefan slapping his own face, so he may be a little too calm. All right, so we're going to go back to Modern here, and so this is rewinding to where we were at the beginning of the match, and we're going to be seeing Rug Delver again. This is on the left-hand side of your screen versus Doran. So this should be pretty sweet.
They're just the craziest opening hands in Modern. I saw Vedalken Shackles and Stomping Ground. Yeah, it's just not something you expect.
Now that is the only Stomping Ground is usually a singleton in this deck, just so that you can get like a Goyf and a Bolt going or whatever. But yeah, that is a funny opener.
All right, so Inquisition of Kozilek casts, seeing Tarmogoyf, Snapcaster Mage, Threads, Bolt, and Shackles.
Yeah, so what do you take here? I mean, we don't know the rest of his hand, so if he has answers for Shackles or whatever, he can choose accordingly. I think Shackles is the strongest card here.
It really depends on the draw. I mean, I can see Threads just being able to totally blow you out if you have a really good 2-mana threat. Obviously, like if you're not holding an answer to Tarmogoyf, that puts you on the back foot very quickly.
Yeah, because the thing about about Shackles is that while I do believe it's the strongest card, you know, it's just overall, it doesn't do much here.
Right,
like
he has
only got
island.
one island. So, but now I will say that I think every other land in his entire deck is an island.
Sure.
So it could get up to 2 or 3, but you know, but 1 or 2 is it's not as much.
And he's also got to draw them naturally.
Yes.
Like he doesn't have a Ponder, or I guess he wouldn't have a Ponder, but he doesn't have a Serum Vision.
So he took his turn to Goyf, which is interesting because you'd think that he'd have more answers to creatures than he would to the other stuff, but I guess that's not the case here. He's also got his own Tarmogoyf in hand, I can see. Murmuring Bosk, but he's going to go with the Marsh Flats. Whoop! Yeah, that's an island. If he wants it to be.
So he didn't run out his own Tarmogoyf because he doesn't want it to get hit with a Bolt.
There's only creature that would put it at 2/3. Now that there's because he could crack.
No, it would be.
It would be lethal.
4.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a sorcery
Right.
creature.
Yeah. So he couldn't.
So it wouldn't have bolted. I don't know why he didn't. Does he have another play that we're not seeing here? Maybe.
I'm confident there is a reason, but
yeah, I might have just not seen. Might have seen it wrong as a bolt.
Yeah, sure.
We'll find out.
Yeah, I see Doran.
You see a Doran. Okay.
Yeah. So, he does have the second island for Vedalken Shackles. With Shackles sitting on the table, Doran becomes less attractive because it turns out it's not really a 5/5.
Yeah. Everybody assumes it and plays it that way, but it's not. All right, so this does look, by the way, like Kibler's list. He had Slaughter Pact in his list at the GP as well. And I think it's, if it's not the same deck, it's a pretty close approximation.
We see Mars Flats getting out Temple Garden. Interestingly, Murmuring Bosk is in the deck largely because of interaction with Sacklands, but you can't get it with a Marsh Flat.
Right.
I could not cast my spells in Modern. I would not be able to sequence these Sacklands. It's a big combinatorics problem that I don't have the patience for. Well, this land gets these two, but not this.
Yeah.
But not Island, go.
Yeah.
All right. He draws his third card. With his third land, he's going to have some options.
That is a Goyf, right? Or is he running?
That is a. Or is that Edge of on it? No, I don't think that's a target.
Or it could be a, what's it called? Dryad armor, maybe?
I have absolutely no idea. I know it's like. I'm sure everybody would, like, staring at this on a monitor thinks we're crazy if you're not able to
It's right
read the
there.
cards.
That's a Goyf.
Okay, it is a Goyf.
So it is a Goyf. He just didn't play it last turn. Maybe to save damage.
No, he just didn't want it to get threads.
Oh, because he knows the threads is there, and he had already played the island. Of course,
I had assumed that he had Inquisitioned the threads away. It turns out he didn't. He Inquisitioned the Tarmogoyf and didn't want to get his guy treacherried on the third turn.
And now it's looking like it's heading that direction if a few more lands can come off the top for Tony.
And it's much safer now to cast it because he's got the Kasali Pride Mage that he can cast and activate.
So he drew a Goyf. He can play his own. He wins the Goyf fight with a lightning bolt later.
Right.
He can start setting that up. If he wants, he's just going to go for the Goyf. He could have also gone for the threads there, but he's going to, I guess, wait a turn.
Well, I just don't think he wants to run his threads right into Kasali Pride Mage.
Okay.
Commentating for this format is so impossible. There's just so many options.
Yeah, you've got a lot.
Every single time, I'm trying to like figure out every play and every path, and it's just like I give up.
You give up.
All
right.
Yeah, you know. All right, I'm going home.
Yeah.
No, and then maybe not.
Zach Hill, everybody. Thanks for stopping by.
Take care. Enjoy the World Magic Cup.
All right, so this happens. Now, when Doran comes down, how does that affect the Goyf battles? Do they just trade with each other after
Yeah,
that?
it affects them both the same way. Again, casting Doran here is pretty bold because of the shackles, but Pride Mage here, on the other hand, wins the Goyf fight absolutely.
Yep.
Because even though it's only +1/+1, it turns out that Tarmogoyf has one more toughness than power.
Exactly. So he's going to be able to get in for 1, 2, for 3, for 4 damage here after Exalted.
He's got Zealous Persecution in his hand, which is also very good in Goyf fights. Can also pump the Goyf up in response if it ever comes up because of Vedalken Shackles. I think he's got to want Tony to try and use the Vedalken Shackles on Pride Mage in order to respond with Zealous Persecution, unless you just want to blow it up.
So is that just to make him use his mana? Like, is that what you're saying? Like,
just time walk him for a turn.
Exactly.
You know? Like, I mean, maybe that's not the best use of his time, but he wants the Prime Mage on the table because he's got to threaten to blow up the Vedalken Shackles eventually.
Yeah, and right now, I mean, is it going to be on Tony's side to just try to overwhelm him? I mean, if you play Threads and Shackles and say, well, how many Pride Mages do you have?
Sure. No, yeah, for certain. And, I mean, you have Snapcaster Mage Bolt, so you're going to be able to generate some advantage.
Now, what he's done, Tony, is he's passed a turn back. And that's going to give him the option to steal something. He can take it out of combat by doing that.
Right.
At the least, even if the shackles get blown up, the creature goes back. Then it'll have summoning sickness. So it depends on. There's a lot of timing here, and you can see Gerald go deep into the tank here. You know, I have to say, Modern, I think, is right at where you want to be. You know, it's not too complex where nobody can play it. But at the same time, it's got a nice depth to it where you gotta. Like you just said, there's too many options, you know.
It's just mind-blowing. It just hurts my head. If we could make a meme, an internet meme of Gerald holding his hands, that is how I feel about having to
think about
figure
this
out
many
all
things.
these lines of play.
Yeah. All right, so what we have is Tony says, I will steal your Pride Mage, and...
So the Shackles does die after the activation.
Yeah, and also... You know, what I said earlier actually doesn't apply in this situation because if he activates the shackles and then it gets blown up before the creature actually trades sides, it will not have summoning sickness because it will never have switched sides. So that wasn't an option for him anyway.
Of course.
Yes.
Clearly.
Obviously.
Very obvious. This game is
so
simple.
And as you predicted, the Zealous Persecution is going to sway the Goy fight firmly in Gerald's favor. Or will it? So are we just going to, are you tapping that for mana? It needs to go in the graveyard.
Maybe. Maybe there's an Urborg on it.
I mean, you do have to tap it before you sack it. There we go.
Yes.
So are we going to see a mountain or a Steam Vents. There's a Steam Vents. He doesn't want to take the damage,
Moje koliko?
but he's going to want to
Dosta
cast a
dobiti
red.
isto. 4-5
He's going to
njegove-
want to cast his Lightning Bolt this turn, I'm assuming.
Nije ni.
Well, yeah, and he could theoretically get a mountain, I guess. Is there one in the deck, or is that usually not?
There
how it
usually
works?
is one mountain, yes. There's usually just the one. One mountain, one forest is kind of this standard.
But it would not surprise me if his number 1 priority is making his Vedalken Shackles as powerful as possible.
Yeah, he's got one left. I don't
Idemo
know if he's gotten in
4-5, a
the
njegove-
board.
It does not look like it.
So, you know, he does have one left in his deck.
So he's probably going to let the Persecution resolve, have his Tarmogoyf bite the dust, and then bolt Tarmogoyf.
He's going to wait till end step. You know, it's an instant. That's
Right.
what's good about it. He's got all this time to figure out
Right.
if there's some other threat that he needs to deal with. But there wasn't, so he
Right.
trades. He's got an empty board. This isn't an ideal spot for Tony, but it's certainly not the worst.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, he would much rather have pressure in the form of a transformed
Ima
Delver
Doran
or even just a
Pokazam
Snapcaster
ga.
Mage or something beating down. But this is fine. He's still got the Threads of Disloyalty in hand. He had a Threads of Disloyalty in hand. Now, he doesn't bother to cast either Snapcaster because he's got 2 of them. He's like, all right, if you want one, you can have
He
one.
doesn't want to burn it on Lightning Bolt, which is the only target he can cast.
Yeah.
Interestingly, keeps an island in his hand, even though he could have played it last turn, presumably for something like Liliana. I'm not exactly sure why that is.
What do you mean, Liliana?
Well, like, I mean, he doesn't know what this junk deck's playing, right? So it could, like, having a land in your hand means if Liliana +1s, you could
Ti
discard it.
posebno rešenje
Okay.
za-
You know, because he could have played the land and just didn't. So.
All right, now he took away a Snapcaster
Good.
Mage and then he cast Doran. So it's going to get
Da,
Threads.
ne može
No,
njega
I
uzeti.
think Threads is converted mana cost.
3
isn't it?
za 2.
Oh, you're right. It
Right.
is. It's 2 converted Macas. I'm sorry. I totally forgot about that. So Doran was Shacklesable, but not Threadsable. So Doran is just a sweet threat. 5 toughness for this deck is very tough. You know, he has some options. He can cast Snapcaster Mage, block, target Lightning Bolt with it, flash it back, and kill it. But then, you know, it's not really
No, that's only 4 damage. Because remember, his Snapcaster Mage is a 2/1. And Doran affects,
Forgot.
yeah, I know, it's crazy.
Oh, Doran got me again. Wow. So he's actually up against it in kind of a really big
Yeah.
way. And
This
Doran's going to
Doran is
actually get
mighty right
bigger
now.
here, too.
Right,
Looks like
yeah,
it's going
he's
to be
about to come
6
across
damage.
for 6.
Yeah, 2-turn clock.
Cards?
No, the Doran is exceedingly powerful right now. It's probably the best threat he could have presented.
He's just going to attack because it's a 2-turn clock either way, I think is his thinking. He's got a Knight of the Reliquary and
I think the
Casali
reason he
Pride.
doesn't play Casali Pride Mage, he doesn't want to get his Casali Pride Mage bolted and then not have it in case Tony draws another Vedalken Shackles. Yeah, I'm
This
telling you.
makes sense. Yeah, that's a good point. He's going to play it anyway, though.
I mean, just
That's a little weird to play it post-combat. Like, you kind of want to make up your mind there, right?
Pa onda
Like,
niko ne može
get that
ovaj-
extra damage in. I know
ne
it's not
može
super
ne
relevant
može-
because it's 2-turn clock either way, but like,
well, I think.
do you think he changed his mind here, or
It's possible. I think he didn't want Snapcaster Mage played pre-combat. You see what I'm saying? If he goes Snapcaster Mage pre-combat, bolt the Casali Pride
he has
Mage,
a block.
then he has a blocker.
Okay,
Exactly.
I like it.
I mean,
All right,
that's
so
really just.
But the threads, he knew about the threads anyway.
And he
Right.
just wanted to, yeah, I guess he just wanted to bait it. He's gonna path to exile his own
Target
creature.
i idem nekog
Oh, I
target.
can't say.
Yeah, no, you're not able to sack it because it's on the battlefield. This is really awkward.
And this is what you were saying before, is that he doesn't have the option to do that.
Which
means you would have to sacrifice it before it's in play,
Alright.
But if
then you
he's
cannot sacrifice.
but if he's saying he's sacrificing it,
doesn't
is that implying that the threads came onto the battlefield?
All right, sure.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's too late. Yeah, and he has to have a target for it, so he can't just sacrifice it because he wants to sacrifice.
Right, well, and he couldn't. That means it's too late. You can't be like, oh, that's illegal. Path to exile it in response.
I see
Because
what
it's
you're
like,
saying.
oh, well, this is on the battlefield. You obviously tried to target it, but you can't because
Right.
you don't have control of it.
Yep.
He can still path it out of the way, of course.
Yes.
But
And-
a minor rules-related mistake.
And this is an interesting position here because Tony has a remand in hand. He's also got a Snapcaster Mage, so he can stay alive this turn.
That is true. And certainly he doesn't mind having an extra land.
So what do? Do you remand it? And that way you can chump block with the Pride Mage? Or do you chump block?
if you remand it, he just casts it again, right? Does he not?
Does he have another white?
It's
Oh,
hard
he
for
has
me
a
to tell. I
murmuring
think it's
boss
a
down
murmuring
there? Oh, I'm
boss,
sorry. Yeah, I didn't see the murmuring boss. So you can't do that. I'm glad somebody's paying attention right here. And so what he's going to end up doing is he's going to have to chump block for once. And I mean, I don't see how he comes back from this now. I guess Shackles is like his only...
I mean, Shackles does it in a big way.
Yeah, it's a
You know,
big
you
one.
burn through 2 of his Pride mages. You know, you can Snapcaster him, maybe bolt his face. So if you are able to draw
2 cards.
Veilkin Shackles, Doran is still lethal in 3 turns.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's his out, unless there's something that I don't understand. Now, he does have Cryptic Command, which can do some work. Tarmogoyf, very large right now. So, yeah, I mean, it does seem like he's drawing live.
Okay.
But certainly I think Shackles is the best card. to draw
So he went and got an
situation.
island with the Path, and he's going to go get another island with the Misty Rainforest.
In his hand is what? Remand Snapcaster Mage?
Yes.
Snapcaster Mage really wishes it was an Ambush Viper right now.
Death Touch would be sweet.
Sadly, it's merely one of the best cards ever printed.
Right.
And you cannot always have your cake and eat it too.
So block, and then I guess he just bolts his face.
Well, he's going to target Lightning Bolt. He
Sure.
has till the end of the turn to cast it. So actually only one Marsh Flats in
Is he not going
Gerald's
to cast it
graveyard.
at all?
Oh, I think he
Oh, he
might.
just
He
decided
wants to
to
leave it there for another
forego it.
Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, I guess so.
Because doming him for 3 is
It's
only
not super relevant here, yeah. What is this? What is that magic card?
Oh, the suspense is killing me.
Chat. Because Remanda.
He's got a remand.
I literally
He's going
cannot
to play a
handle the
Delver and
suspense.
remand it
Oh,
so
to
that he
draw
can
a
draw a
card.
card.
Okay.
Slick.
He says, okay, draw a card. He draws another Delver. Now, do you just play both?
All right, yeah. Run him out there. hope
Even
he
if
doesn't
they
have a
both
Maelstrom
transform,
Pulse.
though, he still can't.
Yeah, right. 3 twos.
It's 4 power.
Doran clearly being used for its offensive text as opposed to, who cares about attacking for 5?
The
I
more-
just want to shrink all my opponent's creatures.
The more I think about it, the more Doran just wrecks his deck. He's running things like Vendilion Click still. Just trashes it. All right, that is a Knight of the Reliquary. He is representing, I think he has 2 lethal sources now. No, the Knight's only got 1
Yeah,
land
the
in
Knight's
there,
not
and it's a
large,
land on top, and he
enough.
extends the hand.
Hindi.
So
One damage lang sa Snapcaster.
Gerald takes down Tony here, 2
Wala
games
siyang
to
magagawa.
0.
Just
Wala lang.
thinking about
Parang nandun pa,
how
baka
hard
sakali.
it is to play perfectly
something.
in a format like Modern, you
High on
really
life
have
ako
to
eh.
think
Useless.
about every card that could be in your opponent's deck.
Yeah.
Every single one.
Yeah,
If
and there's
you
a lot
miss-
of complex interactions. I missed a couple here. I mean, we got to talk as we go, but still, the Doran interactions, like you said, the things that sort of stay on the table. Threads of Disloyalty. Like, okay, it doesn't hit Doran, right? But then Shackles does, no matter what. And there's a
Right.
whole lot going on. It's a wonderfully complex format, but it is, a lot to bite
It's
on.
a lot of fun. No, I mean that game was crazy. It was intense. Now we're going back to the standard match.
portion. So, set all of that Doran shenaniganery aside, and let's get back to some poisoning. Now we see Stepjan. He's shaking his head over and over. I'm not sure why. His hand actually looks awesome.
Yeah, maybe he's just running the stone bluff.
Yeah. All right. So there's a gut shot. He says mental misstep it.
Pay to life.
See, did he?
I pay blue.
He says, "Do you pay 2 life?" He says, "I play blue. I pay the blue."
Right.
All
It's
right.
clearly a green blue deck.
All right, now he is going to pay the blue. And another one. So again, who pays for mana? I mean, who pays for their spells?
Force
these
of will,
days?
your force of will.
Yeah.
Days. But Blight Mama, very, very valuable threat. We saw how potent the regeneration ability was to get through all of those restoration angels, getting around gut shots. Now it looks like Stepan has a dismember in his hand for
Oh man!
restoration angel.
But look at that. The Ponder finds another gut shot on top.
Which is going to draw right away.
Yep, and he's going to use it right now. Gut shot that.
Yep.
And that's a huge
Oh,
play
yeah,
here.
because now there's just no threat.
I think if he
on Sushi's side.
untaps, I don't see how he can. He's going to have a huge hit. He gets to play Rancor. He's going to have Apostle's Blessing up.
Yeah, that gut shot
Ooh,
there was...
there's a 2-drop
seeing
though.
the
It's an
report.
Ichor Claw Mirror. And that's a great draw for him because he's basically in the same situation he was in before, where if he gets to untap, and especially if he draws another land, he not only has ways to clear guys out of the way, he has ways to protect his own guys for very cheap.
Well,
It's funny, he's got 4 cards in hand, and the converted mana cost on his whole hand is like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Right. Now, it's interesting. Normally you want to wait with Vapor Snag, but you might just want to cast it right now. Otherwise, you're going to walk right into Apostle's Blessing. And Ichor Claw Mirror, probably the best target for Rancor in the deck, because it means that if they're blocking, you might actually deal more damage.
It is a land, it's an Inkmoth Nexus too, so that's a backup plan for him.
Oh, this Rancor is going to be absolutely devastating.
Rancor comes down. Now, we expect to see a Vapor Snag here, and we do. And he says, Apostle's Blessing, tap my Inkmoth Nexus.
Just has it at the ready in his left hand.
Yeah, he's just ready to go.
I know exactly how this works. I've seen this interaction before.
Exactly. He still has mana up for that Dismember.
Right.
Now, if he can get a block here, he can dismember and get all of the damage in plus the bonus.
Right.
But that's not going to happen. Plus, it would only be 1 more poison anyway, just because the Rancor gives.
No, that's true.
All right, so now he's in a another Vapor Snake, transforms the Delver into an Insectal Aberration, and we're thinking.
Oh yeah, because Dismember is still an option. And with Andrew having missed as many land drops as he had, or only 2 lands on the table, the Dismember realistically might not have that many more targets over the course of this game.
That could definitely be the case. This takes away the option of Vapor Snagging his own Insectile Aberration. Is that really ever going to happen here?
It doesn't seem very good to me. I think this Dismember is pretty good because you have an Inkmoth Nexus. You don't want your opponent to have a 2 toughness flying creature that can deal with it or force you to trade a pump spell.
Yeah, and even though you take 4 from the Dismember, you were going to take 3 from the Aberration potentially anyway. So,
sure.
Yeah, seems fine.
Now, one of the things I really like about this Infect deck is that it only has 13 forests, so it just has so many live draws. You know, because 8 of its non-basic lands do things that are very good.
Yeah.
So,
ooh, he just passes the turn back. He does not use the Vapor Snag on his turn while his opponent was tapped out.
It gives Stepan another turn to draw an Apostle's Blessing or a Ranger's Guile.
Seems risky to me.
Maybe you'd rather Vapor Snag Inkmoth Nexus. Maybe you want to represent threats. Maybe you want to mana leak something. In any case, Stepan more than happy to attack for 3 poison damage with Ichor Claw there.
Yep. Hey, he'll just sit here and do this.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, he doesn't need to do anything else.
All right, and is that 3 more poison damage that he takes?
Like it.
So and
he just says go.
Doesn't walk into mana leak.
Yeah. Doesn't walk into mana leak. Doesn't walk into anything.
Flash freeze too.
He's got the board right now.
Right, so an instant Vapor Snag is gonna reset it meaningfully, but that Inkmoth Nexus, you know,
that didn't happen.
Yeah, and Andrew can't tap out, or he's dead to Inkmoth Nexus and a pump spell.
So why do you think he didn't Vapor Snag there? Is he saving it to try to get him on a pump spell? Is he trying to wait for Stepion to get a little bit jealous, a little bit anxious, and then use some pump spell? He's going to get him with a Vapor Snag. I mean, he can't just keep taking 3 poison a turn. He's already at 6.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think I would have Vapor Snagged it at the end of the turn there. I mean, he can Vapor Snag it right now, but now he's just, you know, he's delayed himself by a turn, and 3 poison is a lot of poison damage.
It is. Now, he's got to do it now because it's lethal.
Right. Yeah, right. And, I mean, that taps him out for Flash Freeze, not that matters too much.
No, because he's only got 1 mana left.
So unlucky.
So unlucky, he says. Vapor Snag. Rancor comes back to his hand. These Croatian guys are awesome.
So unlucky about the Vapor Snag you knew about. Yeah, of course. I mean, the thing about this, like, Andrew is a little bit mana screwed. On the other hand, he pondered and kept it with no lands on top.
Yeah.
So you have to say, you know, in some sense, you knew this was going to happen.
Yep.
And he had Gideon in his hand, so he knew that he wanted some extra lands. He needed that gut shot against to get the Blight Mob off the table, but that definitely came at a cost.
It's setting him back, exactly. Okay. Activating Clock Nexus.
Okay.
That happens, but then he goes for the Rancor on it, and that gets flash frozen.
And that
mutagenic growth
is game
is
if he doesn't
3
have-
if it doesn't happen, and he extends the hand, and mono green infect takes it down. He slams the cards down. You can see the fist pumps there. He's excited. It's a big one.
And these Croatians normally pretty stoic, but you can tell that was a big victory for them.
Yeah, that absolutely was. So Stepan goes up, wins 2-1 over Andrew Caliana, and Gerald has won 2 over Tony Portolan. Now, that's going to leave us back with block to decide it.
Znači,
Gurgur is up 1-0, as far as I know, still over Zax Ozaki.
Jack, just come here.
And you can, if you guys can hear, he
Yeah,
says,
they
"Just
have the
come here."
camera,
He
so
wants,
we
he
have
wants his
to.
buddies with him. He needs
Oh,
his
of course.
teammates. This is a big match for them. This is going to decide who wins this. They're tied up currently.
All right, so what matchup are we going to be looking at?
Okay.
So as we go back here, we're going to be seeing
Go.
It's looking like Jund on Jund.
Jund for the Philippines
Drugo. A bio je na jedan i top
and
deko hejt.
Jund for Croatia. So, okay, so we're underway here already. We've got a turn 1 Avacyn's Pilgrim. Now, Jund has made a huge showing here this weekend.
has.
I did not expect this. I was starting to, Zach and I were going over the decks. I was going to tell him all the ones that were Jund. I decided to tell him the ones that weren't Jund instead. There's 4 that aren't Jund and 14 that are. So this is these 2 decks. This mirror match represents what people brought here this week.
Right. Now, there are some differences. Zax has 4 copies of Garrick Relentless in his main deck. Gurga only has 1.
Okay.
Gurga has access to Devil's Play. He has 1 more Wolfer's Silverheart. And that's looking like basically another big card for Zax is Olivia Voldaren, which we don't see a lot of.
That's pretty
2
spicy
copies
in the
in
mirror.
main deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, when certainly going to feed on those Avacyn's Pilgrims if she gets a chance to.
Feed indeed.
And you know, the mind control ability always comes in handy in any sort of mid-range
It does, especially with these huge creatures like Wolfer Silverheart running around.
Right. The format-defining Wolfer's Silverheart. Now,
Exactly.
Gurga, you have to be pretty excited to be right here. You've got 4 mana, potentially 5 to your opponent's 2 on the next turn. On the other hand, you're very, very vulnerable to Bonfire of the Damned.
You are.
And he's only 1 turn away from casting that, so you need to make sure you can make that mana count.
Yeah. Now I see that
A zašto je
Gurga
to bolje od
also
ovog?
he has the Garrick Relentless in hand, so we would see he's not going to let that happen because, you know, I think that he knows that if he lets him untap, he can have up to 5 mana at his disposal, and that's just going to put him away, put him too far behind. So he's going to tragic slip one of the Avacyn's Pilgrims to keep him off of that mana. Now, Gurga still can, though, play Garrick here if he wants.
Right.
And it looks like that's what's going to happen. He doesn't have any targets. Oh, I might be wrong. That's also a Huntmaster of the Fell, so they have a decision on which one to play first. He's going to play the Huntmaster. It gives a lot of protection to Garrick for later streets, and it just does more damage.
Yeah,
it's
I like
4
getting
power instead of 2.
Completely agree. I like getting Huntmaster on the table early. Like, it's always possible your opponent just hiccups.
Yeah.
And
which he's already hiccuped.
Right.
So. All right, so he does Miracle of Bonfire for 1.
Sure.
Is that? I mean, you got to be pretty happy in Gurga's seat from that perspective.
Yeah, I'm not going to
right?
argue with that.
Yeah.
Okay, my opponent spends 2 mana and his turn to kill my Avacyn's Pilgrim. Doesn't have a 3rd land.
That's his 2nd land drop that he's missed, I believe.
Yeah.
I don't know who is on the play here exactly. I think, I believe though that Zax was on the play here. So.
Oh, okay.
Oh no, the teams are tied 1-1. I'm sorry.
So.
It must have been Gurga. Yep.
I think he's only missed 1 land drop, but it was a big land drop to miss.
Mogu sam napasti ili se flipa.
I mean, they're debating what their play is. I think you attack. I think you just play Garrick and start churning out 2/2s.
I mean, that's pretty tough to deal with outside of Bonfire.
Right, and
it
even
also
if he Bonfires, Garrick's still alive.
It does. Well, he's still going to be at 3. At this point, yeah, absolutely.
Right, exactly.
And then on top of that, if Zax does top deck like some mana, like an Avacyn's Pilgrim to try to get him out of this situation, Garrick can just instantly eat it.
I will say, we both have very small brains because it turns out that Avacyn's Pilgrim produces mana. Yeah, so he can't even cast Garrick, even though I didn't realize that. He has to cast Mortal and Ranger.
Maybe I assumed that he had a land in hand. try to sell that one later.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, he merely has to gain card advantage and contribute another 2/2 to the board.
Yeah, but I mean,
Even
I
the
think to be
chest
fair to us, he did cast
is your
Huntmaster last
There
turn.
you go.
So we kind
Of
of get stuck on that. But yeah, fair
Yeah,
enough.
više ništa cast.
And
Mislim,
yeah,
mogu ovo
card
castati.
advantage, another land drop, and things are looking really good for Croatia from this point. And again, this is the situation that we described. He has top decked in Avacyn's Pilgrim, and it's just not going to do something here because he's not going to block with it. And Garrett can eat it. He also has a bonfire in his hand if he wants to go that route and bonfire for 2.
He could theoretically just say go.
Yep. 1, 2,
I mean,
3,
eating it
4.
with Garrett is
Eat
just
that.
devastating right here.
It's devastating. Now, next turn,
attack you
he
for
can.
6.
He says attack you for 6. He can cash in a wolf for a wolf
Right.
or Silverheart if he draws a land. I mean, there's a lot
There's so
of
many
options
things
here.
can go on right here. And you don't even have to be scared of your opponent mising a bonfire.
Nope, and he's just going to extend the
Extend
hand
the
because
hand.
there's nothing he can draw out of this
So luck.
situation. So luck, he says.
Huge, huge victory for Croatia here, and you can see it in their faces.
Yeah, they're all very happy. We saw some fist pumping, some celebration, and more power to them. They defeat the Philippines here, and it looks like they're going to put themselves in a good position to move on. I don't actually have it handy if they won the last one. I think they did, though. So it looks like they're going to be good to go. So we're going to come back to us for. Hey,
All right.
Hi, Marshall
Good
Sutcliffe.
prediction, Marshall.
This guy is Zach Hill. That was some exciting stuff. We even got a little bit of a block flurry at the end there
Yeah.
with Garrick doing some work, a little bit of mana stumbling from both sides, some
course.
big mana stumbling
Right.
on Zach's side,
yeah,
and that cost him the
definitely.
game that time. When you put a lot of your resources on creatures, right? You play things like Avacyn's Pilgrim or Scorn
Exactly.
Villager, and they get swept away. It can really bite you.
No, that couldn't be more true. And that format, I mean, you see tragic slips all over the place, even in 3-color decks. I mean, the format's all about mana accelerating creatures, and just getting ahead on mana is exactly how you win a mid-range fight.
Exactly. All right, so that's going to wrap it up for round 2 here, and we're going to pass it back now to the news desk, and then after that we'll be back for more constructed action.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the news desk. Rich Hagan, Sheldon Menery with us here, and boy, do you know how to wear smart clothes. I've got to hand it to you. It's an art, you have it, there's no doubt about it. Now, here we are, the penultimate round. Pretty much
Last but one, that means, right?
Yeah, the
Yes.
pen ultimate. Pretty much my favorite round of every event, because obviously there's drama on Sunday, but when you are so close to the finish line with 2 to go, and you know that if you win your penultimate round, maybe you don't have to play the last one, or you know that the dreams are over.
Well, it's a stress buildup and a stress release. I mean, there's some people that are charging forward. Some folks like, well, we made a game run at it, we're out. Unfortunately, and then there's the breakdown. But yeah, this round is really important because it's the one that wheels them into getting into that all-important top 8.
That said, though, at team events, there is a curiously celebratory vibe to these rounds.
Sure.
Because everyone turns up on day 1 going, isn't this awesome? We get to play at the World Magic Cup.
Right.
And then, they do all right in the draft yesterday morning, and they go, this is really cool because we're not in 58th place, we're in 34th. And then they play 4 rounds of standard, and, they go to bed last night, and they go, wait a minute, we're 26th.
Yeah,
we made it to day 2, let's go again. And then they come back, and they open 4 Vampire Nighthawks. They get pretty excited about life. They 3-0 their pod. Suddenly, they're in the top 16.
They're in
and
the
then
hunt.
you start going, we could win this thing, right? And yet, because they know that everyone else is on that same journey, when these sort of 6 people sit down, or 8 people sit down from thousands of miles apart, they look at each other, maybe they don't even speak the same language, but there is this recognition of just how lucky everyone in those chairs is. And it's great.
As a matter of fact, I was talking to the team from Uruguay, who very smart in their nice ties, their white shirts and their blue ties, and they came in not expecting to make day 2. They came in and just charged up to the top of the standings, and they were doing really well. They stumbled last round. And unfortunately, they stumbled this round.
Okay.
And I was talking to the team, and I said, so the dream is over. And they said, no, the dream is right now. We're living the dream. We made top 16 at a World Championship. You know, they came in with 2 total Pro Tour points between the 4 of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they top 16. I mean, that's the great story of success. I think, you know, as we were looking out to the matches that were going on, we saw there's a fair amount of David versus Goliath here this weekend and today, and especially in the second stage now. Seems to me like the Davids are doing pretty well.
And I have a theory about this, which you're welcome to shoot down in flames because I haven't really tested it super thoroughly.
So you're just coming up with the top of your head?
Yeah, pretty much. No. I've been watching this. It seems to me Magic increasingly is a game where persistence is rewarded, where hard work is rewarded, where, in a sense, targeting is rewarded. Now, you know, maybe you are a high-level pro and you have come off Barcelona and you've done well there, and you know that your summer involves maybe the World Magic Cup, and then maybe if you're very lucky, in 10 days' time, it involves the Players' Championship and Grand Prix Boston. You're looking forward to the team event in San Jose and Pro Tour return to Ravnica, and so on and so on. Looking at some of these nations who are doing really well here, those Uruguay players didn't have matching ties 3 months ago. They didn't just happen to shop at the same store, you know, in downtown Montevideo. They went, this is something that we can treasure for the rest of our lives. It may never come again.
Exactly.
This weekend is what matters.
Yeah, that's one of the things that has struck me about this event as a whole has been the spirit, has been the attitude, both the players and their teams with their sense of national pride. I mean, you know, we saw the Scots in the kilts yesterday. I saw Stephen Murray today in some beach shorts, and I wondered what kind of sparring went with that.
Well, I know what that's about. He's having the kilt dry cleaned for tomorrow.
But there's this real sense of almost a carnival atmosphere to the event because the teams they're tightly together. What really struck me was the tables that the teams are playing on are laid out so that there's a standard match, there's the modern match, and there's the block constructed match. And there's plenty of room on the tables for 3 matches. As a matter of fact, there's room for probably 5 or 6 matches at the table, so they have plenty of room. And the teams are all packed tightly in together with the 4. Yeah, I mean, like 4 people in the space that 2 would fit in because the fourth guy is sitting back here, and he's making his suggestions and holding the feet to the fire of the guy who's maybe about to make a little bit of a mistake. So they're there. There's this real sense of togetherness that you have to love about the team format.
You were out and about in this penultimate round. Just give us a flavor of some of the things you were seeing, some of the people you were talking to as well. What else is going on out there as this round comes to a close and we head towards the final round?
Well, one of the things I saw at the end of the very last round, one of the last matches to finish was the Ukraine and Puerto Rico match.
Okay.
And it came down to the modern match of robots on robots.
Oh, nice.
So here there are a lot of colorless cards on the table.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of math going on because this is a match where the decks can swing for a fair amount of mana, and both teams were doing the calculations as a team.
And in separate languages, presumably, looking at this. So
yes.
This was Ukraine against Puerto Rico, so there's no overlap of the language
correct.
there.
It was the third match. The first 2 matches were done. The match was 1-1. It came down to the last couple of turns, and I watched the guys counting on fingers to make sure that they had the math right every time that there was going to be an attack, or hey, he's going to swing for this, he's going to swing for that. Puerto Rico came up true in that match. National champion Jorge Aramain won. Puerto Rico, they're still in a little bit of a dicey position because they may have to win anyway to get in.
It was because they were fourth seed. Yeah, we'll take a look in just a moment. The pairings are not far away, the full standings are not far away, and we'll go through the 4 rounds. But as you say, being fourth seed, even the 2 wins doesn't guarantee them yet a place in the knockout rounds.
But to keep answering what you asked, it was just the raw sportsmanship that I saw here. I mean, even better than in individual pro tours. I mean, you and I have watched them play a lot, and even when things are tense, they're mostly friendly. And here I've found that there's fun being had. The winning team, sometimes the match finishes, and if you weren't paying attention, you can't really tell who won the match and who lost the match, because there's still this discussion between the teams going on, and they're smiling, they're laughing, they're having a good time. They're talking about. I mean, I watched Uruguay and Hungary, and they were talking about their decks, and we made these deck choices because of this, and we thought that this was going to be a way. So I really think the sportsmanship is the story of this weekend.
Yeah, and also we talk about it being a global game, and we sometimes, when you see one person from a place, you don't necessarily. They're themselves. You don't sort of input onto Saul Alvarado that he represents Panama and everything to do with Panama. But when there is a team there is that feeling of nationhood, and it's noticeable. So we're talking to some of the crew who don't know anything about Magic, and they're saying, so what goes on? Why is Magic so global? And Brian David Marshall said, well, the thing is, if you take a deck and you get parachuted in to any city in the world, pretty much. And you find a game store, 5 minutes later, you are playing Magic with someone who's never met you before, doesn't speak your language, can't read your cards, you can't read theirs, doesn't matter a jot.
Works based on the pictures.
It is a universal language of gaming.
It is.
And it's a wondrous thing. Now, I can tell you that we have the full standings after 2, so it's time to wheel out, once again, the 4 pools of doom. Let's see who's in, who's out, and who's still got to shake it all about. We begin with Pool 1. Croatia are 1-1. The Philippines 1-1. Finland 2-0. Portugal are gone at 0-2 because they're the bottom seed. No way they can make it through. Now the pairings here, this is the way the last round works. The top seed, Croatia, will face the bottom seed, Portugal, leaving the Philippines and Finland to play in the other match. So Croatia know that if they win their last round, they will be in, because at 18 points, they are guaranteed. If the Philippines beat Finland, they will get to 18, tied with Finland, potentially tied with Croatia, but Finland would go out in the 3-way tie at 18 because they are the 3rd place seed. So right now, Finland's hope is that Portugal do them a favor and beat Croatia, or that they clean sweep and keep it in their own hands and defeat the Philippines. Plenty to play out there, but Croatia being one of the big stories of this weekend. Let's move on to pool number 2. Sheldon, tell everyone what's gone on there.
Chinese Taipei is in with a 2-0 record after defeating the U.S. in that last match. Hungary also in, already at 2-0 after, as we talked about, beating Uruguay. That means the United States and Uruguay are out.
Wow.
United States, as we talked about, one of those Goliaths. Their weekend is over. Top 16 finish is a top 16 finish, but you've got to think that they thought that they were going to do a little better than that.
Sure, but 2 people who wouldn't have expected to do better than that and have really held themselves up to great account. Alex Binnick, Joe Panacchio, 6-1 both on day 1. Terrific effort here again on day 2. Commiserations to them not quite making it to the final stage, but given the pressure they were under, it's something we haven't talked about a lot here on the show, and in the weeks leading up to it, we didn't want to be unfair to them. But I think there is no hotter seat in Magic than an unknown chair in a global hotshot US national team.
Well, sure. I mean, do you want to? You have to live up to quite something when you're playing with, when you're playing alongside the likes of Luis Scott Vargas and Brian Kibler. and I'm the guy. So I think Alex and Joe did do a great accounting of themselves this weekend and played extremely well.
And intriguingly, and it speaks to what you said earlier, even they, under all that pressure and weight of expectation, managed to have a great time. They've had an ace weekend, and I'm really pleased for them because, they don't make top 32. They're both 2 and 5. That's kind of miserable. And at PTQs for the next 2 years, oh, you're that guy who, we're rubbish at US.
You were the albatross.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm really pleased for both of them. Let's take you to our next pool. It's Pool 3. Wow, Scotland still in the hunt at 1 and 1. Estonia 1 and 1. Poland are 2 and 0. Kruchniewicz, Kopech, Pedrakowski still going at it. Slovenia 0 and 2. And it looks to me like Estonia-Poland is going to be a really interesting matchup. Wouldn't surprise me if we get them on camera. Remember the pairing, Scotland will play Slovenia. Slovenia cannot make it in. If Scotland win over Slovenia, and I would say if Slovenia chose not to play, but the way everyone's been playing it, they've been straight down the line. We're here to play Magic, let's play. If Scotland beats Slovenia, they will be through. If Estonia beat Poland, they will be through, and potentially at the expense of Poland, despite their 2 wins so far. If they fall to 2 and 1, you could be the old 18, 18, 18, 3 2 and 1s, and that would be Scotland and Estonia through. So Poland, despite their 2 wins, are not yet safe. There is one more pool to go. Let's take a look. And Sheldon, give us the shape of Pool 4.
Well, we talked earlier about the Davids and the Goliaths, and this pool is representative. Puerto Rico at 2 and 0, they came in as the bottom seed. They're going to have to still get by Slovak Republic, who was the top seed. They're 1 and 1. France at 0 and 2 is out, one of the Goliaths, and the Ukraine at 1 and 1. So we have the Puerto Rico, Slovak Republic. Both these teams have to play. There's no we want to be good to you that we are not going through ourselves. Every 3 teams are alive in this pool: Slovak Republic, Ukraine, and Puerto Rico. Ukraine's got to play France. I know the French. They're playing this match.
Of course they are.
They're not rolling over on anybody.
And just to clarify, the reason that France are definitively out is you could say, well, okay, France beat Ukraine, they go to 1 and 2. Ukraine would be at 1 and 2 as well. Puerto Rico, were they to beat Slovak Republic, Puerto Rico would be 3 and 0. Everyone else would be 1 and 2. But on tiebreak, Slovak Republic would be above France. Even with the Slovak Republic loss, there is no way for France to overtake on seeding the Slovak Republic. That's why they're out. So it's all about, can Puerto Rico get the job done? What a fabulous story that would be. And can Ukraine dispatch France one final time to make it in?
Now, Puerto Rico and France were the only teams to play together in both stages today.
Yeah, I saw that.
As a matter of fact,
kept just being brought around, didn't they?
And France won in stage 1 today.
Oh, okay.
So Puerto Rico got them back, as it were, in stage 2. One would say the ultimate revenge, the last revenge of the Puerto Rican team. So they'll be. I mean, the Puerto Rican team has the game face on. They're a small market team that has come and is playing with the big boys. Not a lot of Pro Tour points between them, and they've played top shelf games the entire time.
Okay, well, I can tell you that our feature match this round is going to be Estonia with Oliver Ox, Hannes Karem and Tavi Ludvi up against Poland, Pedrakowski, Kruchniewicz, Kopech, Bubac. That's the team. 4 on 4, 3 on 3, magic on magic, format on format. Who will make it to the top 8? The next hour of must-see magic will reveal all. It's time to get down to the booth one final time here on Super Saturday at the World Magic Cup 2012. But we're going to have to just hold on one moment because the players are not quite ready for us. So I'm going to ask you, now that you've lost the US, in a sense you're allowed a romantic pick, capital R. Who would you love to see lifting the trophy, going utterly mental at 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon?
There would be nothing like seeing the team from Puerto Rico lift the trophy. Those guys have really come. I think Scotland would be another great story to hoist the trophy. The underdog. I mean, if you're gonna let me dream, Rich, I'm gonna talk about the underdog, the guys that nobody gave any chance to. Oh, Puerto Rico has a team.
Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
Let's just give them a little bit of due. 3 times Puerto Rico has sent a national team to a global team event. 2008, 49th. 2009, 44th. 2010, 40th. That's the best they've ever done. They're so far above their weight, it's dizzying. And all they have to do is hold it together through one more match, and they will be on the stage that Magic players around the world dream of, being live in front of a global audience on Super Sunday.
And you know as well as I do, on Sunday in the elimination rounds, anything can happen. Teams get hot, and they play great Magic, and suddenly, out of nowhere, there's this tremendous story. Regardless, we're going to see fantastic Magic played.
Let's see some fantastic Magic played. It's time for the final round of team play here at the World Magic Cup 2012.